Good morning, one and all. Today we will see Unit 4 Iterative Improvement. The first topic is Simplex Method. So, first, what is Simplex Method? Yes, it is a geometric method of solving linear programming problem. The graphical method is useful only for problem involving two decision variable and relatively few problem constraints. Okay. So what happen when we need more decision variable and more problem constraint? Yes, we use an algebraic method called Simplex Method, which was developed by George B. in 1914 to 2005 in 1947. Standard maximization problem in standard form. A linear programming is said to be a standard maximization problem in standard form if it is mathematical model of the following form. So maximize the objective function zmax equal to p equal to c1 x1 c2 x2 up to cn xn, subject to problem constraint of the form less than or equal to b greater than always 0, with non-negative constraints x1, x2 up to xn greater than or equal to 0. So before going to the simplex method, we need to understand some terms. First one is slack variable. What is slack variable? Yes, a mathematical representation of surplus resource. In real life problem, it is unlikely that all resources will be used completely. So there usually are unused resources. Slack variable represent the unused resources between the left hand side and right hand side of each inequality. So while seeing the problem, you can understand. Okay, but the simple definition for slack variable is unused resources between left hand side and right hand side. Then basic and non-basic variables. What is basic variables? Basic variables are selected arbitrarily with the restriction that there may be many basic variable as there are equation. The remaining variables are non-basic variable. So for example, x1 plus 2x2 plus s1 equal to 32, 3x1 plus 4x2 plus s2 84. There are two equations. These two equations we can select any two of the four variables of basic variable. The remaining two variables are non-basic variable. A solution found by setting the two non-basic variable equal to 0. And solving the two basic variables basic solution. If the basic solution is no negative value, it is a basic feasible solution. So from these two equations you can take two basic variable to find the basic solution, and basic solution if has no negative value, then it is a basic feasible solution. Okay. Then what are the steps involved in simplex method? Step 1, write the standard maximization problem in standard form. First, whatever the equation is given, you have to write the equation in the standard maximization form. Then introduce slack variables to form the initial system and write the initial table. Then step 2, are there any negative indicator in the bottom row? You check that. Then step 3, select the pivot column. Then step 4, are there any positive element in the pivot column above the dashed line? Check that. Okay. Then step 5, select the pivot element and perform the pivot operation. Okay. So here the stopping criteria, whenever you find the negative indicator in the bottom row, the optimal solution has been found. Whenever any positive element in the pivot column above the dashed line, the linear programming problem has no optimal solution. So these are the various steps involved in simplex method. To solve the linear programming in a standard form, use the following step. First, convert each inequalities into set of constraints to an equation by adding slack variable. So first, whatever the equation given, you have to convert the inequality into set of constraints to an equation by adding slack variables. Then create an initial simplex table, select the pivot column, then select the pivot row. Usually use elementary row operation, calculate new value for the pivot row so that pivot is 1. Use elementary row operation to make all numbers in the pivot column equal to 0. except the pivot number. So you have to do step 5, step 6 and step 7. If you obtain any final table, then the linear programming problem has been maximum solution, which is given by the entry in the lower right corner of the table. Okay, so these are the various steps involved in solving the linear programming problem in standard form. Then what is pivot column? The column of table representing the variable to be entered into the solution mix is called the pivot column. What is pivot row? The row of the table representing the variable to be replaced in the solution mix, that is pivot row. Which is pivot number? The element in both the pivot column and pivot row is known as a pivot number. So you need to understand what is slack variable, what is standard form, what is pivot column, pivot row, pivot number before solving the equation using simplex method. Then simplex table. It's a most real world problem or too complex to solve graphically, so we need to go for a linear programming method using like simplex method. So simplex table is a way to systematically evaluate variable mixes in order to find the best one. That is what simplex table. So see the simplex table. So you need to arrange the basic variables in row wise, then all variables in column wise, then solution column, then coefficient column. So like this the simplex table looks. So when we solve a problem, we can understand clearly how to proceed simplex method to find the best solution for the given equation. So hope you all understood the basic introduction about the simplex method. Just recall the topic. Yes, the simplex method, it is a geometrical method to solve the linear programming problem. Okay, so many problems we can use graphical method, but here we are using mathematical geometrics method. Okay, so algebraic method. Okay, this is developed by George B. Then standard maximization problem in standard form. You have to write the standard maximization problem into standard form before solving the equation. Then what is meant by slack variable? It represents the unused resources between right hand side and left hand side of the each inequality. Then what is basic and non-basic variable? So for the given two equation, you see in this PPT, the given equation, there are two equations. You can take any two variable as a basic variable. So a solution find by setting the non-basic variable equal to 0 and solving the two basic variable is basic solution. If the basic solution is non-negative, then it is a basic feasible solution. Then these are the steps involved in simplex method. First you need to write the standard maximization problem into standard form. Then you check are there any negative indicator in the bottom row. If it is there, you stop the process and optimal solution has been found. Then select the pivot column. After selecting the pivot column, check are there any positive element in the pivot column above the dashed line. If it is there, the linear programming problem has no optimal solution. You can stop the process. Otherwise, go to step 5, select the pivot element and perform the pivot operation. So this is what the various steps involved in simplex method. Okay, so pivot column, pivot row, pivot number, these you should understand. Then what is simplex table? So this is the structure of simplex table. So that's all about simplex method. Next class we'll see one problem in simplex method. Okay, thank you.